don't think it's fair to call out only the players or the coaches. I think we both, coaches and players, equally have a hand and we're responsible for what's going on the field. So it's definitely not how we envision our season going right now, but we're 4-7, and that's the team we put on film. So then, that's who we are. And until we clean up the things that we're doing and become more consistent and learn how to win, that's what we're going to keep doing.
We hurting ourselves. That's the main thing. You can't win football games, especially in this league, hurting yourself. I don't know how many turnovers we had. Seemed like almost every possession, but you can't play against yourself. That's the main thing we've taken away from this.
Yeah, man, we got to come together. I mean, it truly takes all 11 guys on the field at one time doing their job. You can't have 10 guys doing their job. So it truly takes all 11 of us, and it starts with practice, showing up with the right frame of mind, and then just having that want to win every single rep.
What is the most frustrating part about the fact that not being able to put all the pieces together to come out with wins?
The most frustrating part about it is, that we do it to ourselves. We constantly, shoot ourselves in the foot. We constantly beat ourselves. We just gotta, give ourselves a chance to be great, and make the other team beat us. So, that's the most frustrating about it, is the fact that we can control it. We just allow it to happen.
Well, here again, talking about Washington Commanders' loss to the New York Giants. And here to break down this debacle of a game with me is Lake Lewis, After Practice Podcast and the NFL Insider. Lake, let's jump right to this. 6 turnovers by this Commanders team to the New York Giants, a game that everybody thought that it was going to be a cakewalk. But for this Commanders team, from week to week, you don't know what team is going to show up. And John Allen said something that was pretty interesting. He said that let's not just blame it on the coaches, but all of them have a part to play into this. I thought that was one of the best statements that I've heard in a long time, because it's taken accountability that it's everybody that's creating this situation that this team is in right now. What's your take on what you saw and looking at this team moving forward to finish out this season?
Well, I mean, it was a very good point. I agree that John Allen hit it on the head. I mean, if you go back and you look at the game, and we were sitting there, in the press box, just like, this is a normal occurrence for us, what we see, unfortunately. But, when you look at every facet of the game, from coaching to the players, from the offense with the 6 turnovers to the defense that had, 9 sacks, 6 in the first half, but still gave up, huge chunk plays and allowed for DeVito, a third-string quarterback, basically to, have a career day against them. So, you look at the punting game. Tress Way, had one of his worst days, shanked the punt pretty much. And then also, I think Joey Sly missed an extra point. So, I mean, you look at every facet of the game, on all 3 levels, they didn't come to play, and the coaches got out-coached again. So, it's just a mess right now for the Commanders. And, with what, they're 4-7, so with 6 games left, it just doesn't look like, a team that's going anywhere. And there's going to be those grumblings, if they go into Dallas Thursday and lose in a bad manner, there are going to be more people calling for Ron Rivera or Jack Del Rio or someone. I think Eric Bieniemy might escape, as far as getting fired or canned, because he's new to the outfit, and his unit up until yesterday had shown progression week in and week out. But they struggled yesterday too, Donna. So they're a mess right now.
Yeah, but and it's disturbing, because you're trying to put your finger on what's going on with this team. Somebody said after the game on Sunday that it looks like this team had quit. And I know the players would say, no, we haven't. I know the coaches said that's not true. And you saw Ron Rivera really emotional.
He was.
After that game on Sunday. To come and talk to the media after a game that where it was by far Sam Howell's worst game of the season, 3 interceptions. Then you put the ball on the carpet 3 times also. But question was asked, do you see this team taking a step backwards? And he's defensive where he's saying no. But when you really truly look at this team, they have taken steps backwards, forward. It's backwards and forward with this team, so you don't know what you've got. But what has disappointed you the most this season? And has this team looked like that they have quit? Because when you start losing like they've been losing, they started off the season with those 2 wins, and then it's been, downhill, for the most part. And like playing sports, when you start to lose, it's hard to see the light on the other side when all you're seeing is the darkness. Has this team quit?
Well, first of all, I didn't lose a whole lot of games when I played. So, but anyway, I'm just teasing.
I had my moments, but they weren't honestly, all of this.
I had a lot of success at every level. Not individually, I'm talking about team-wise. We did well. And I say that because if you're the John Allens and Brian Robinsons and you're coming from Alabama or, you're coming from one of these strong programs, Terry McLaurin, coming from Ohio State, Jahan Dotson, I mean, not at a championship level, but Penn State, we do have some success. And, so if you're one of these guys coming from these big Power 5 programs and you're coming, first of all, into a locker room that's smaller than what you had in college, and, things look different, you're probably like, what is going on? Where am I right now?
I'm not used to all this. This is what they're saying.
Exactly. And then you have, the ownership changes and the legal stuff going on and the empty stadiums. It's hard for guys to get up. And I know fans out there are going to say, well, they're pros and they're getting paid to overlook all those things. That's tough. And you know this, Donna, as a former athlete, it's nothing like playing in front of a packed crowd. It's nothing like knowing that from top to bottom, everybody's rowing in the same direction. And it's never been like that here. And, so right now, I will say this. I don't think these players have quit on Ron Rivera because they're still, even though they're losing games, they're competitive at times and they show glimpses and they come back the next week. The problem with this team is Ron said it at the podium yesterday to us. They're just not consistent enough. And he didn't say this part. I'm going to say this part. But this team plays to the level of their competition. And when they played the Eagles, they looked really good twice. They probably should have beat the Eagles twice if you think about it. And now you look
Seattle.
Seattle. And then you can all even say Denver, because Denver's kind of turned the corner now, so they played against the level of some of the teams they played against. But then when you play the Bears at home on a Thursday night in front of your crowd and they're excited to see what you can do, you play Buffalo, and Buffalo was a game that I think a lot of us thought they were going to be more competitive, and they were 2-0 going into that Week 3 Buffalo game at home. So the irony is that this team is dreadful at home. They're 3,
but it's not good. But it's not good, like, because you're saying that they play their competition, but real good teams, the teams that are going to be in the playoffs, in the postseason, and all of that, those are teams that win ugly, but they still win games. And I don't see that as this Commanders team. When it's all boils down, this team is just not good, like.
No, they're not. And, I keep telling people, when you hear people saying that this team's supposed, when they started looking to the schedule, and they're like, well, the Giants are coming to town, and, or the Bears were coming to town at the time, and, you're like, you should beat these teams because those are bad teams. Listen, the other teams are looking at Washington like that. They're looking at Washington like, we're going to get right against these guys. How many times have we seen, I don't want to use the word Midland player for any professional, because they're, you and I both know this, a professional player who doesn't play, who could be a third stringer or the guy at the end of a bench in the NBA, will come into your league and put 50 on you at will. So we know that they're better than everyone, but let's just say, for the sake of our argument here, you can't have a guy like DeVito come in here and throw for 250 yards on you and 3 touchdowns. That's not supposed to happen.
Third string, and they always say, you know what? He's still in the NFL, but he's still third string.
He's still third string. And so what I'm saying now is, I think you have to evaluate this. And Donna, you and I have talked about this for some time. There's some really talented players in that locker room, some really good young talent. But, and I have to say this for the first time, the fan base in Washington has to stop believing everything that had been shoveled to them by the organization, that these players were Pro Bowl caliber players, because they're not. There's
Yeah.
maybe 3 or 4 guys on this roster that would start on everybody else's roster, and that might even be in question. And that's not knocking the talent. I'm not sure if Terry McLaurin's a number one on, 5 or 6 other teams in the league because they have number ones. But, you have to start thinking these things because, when you draft a guy like Forbes in the first round and you draft Martin in the second round, those guys are supposed to be on the field all the time, not some of the time, not getting benched if they struggle. Let them go through their growing pains. They're supposed to be on the field at all times. And you can't miss on first round draft picks. I think they got it right with Jahan. I think this is just a second year unique situation because it's a new coordinator, but he's shown glimpses. He scored yesterday. He's always shown that he has talent. But when you look at a guy like Jamin Davis, is he really a first round grade or is he not being used right? It could be a combination of both. I like him to think that he's not being used right. We saw yesterday them blitzing.
I think a lot of players are not being used right. If you ask me, Lake, this team, when you look at that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you look at this team, I think that a lot of players are not being used right, and that is some of the problem. Maybe not being in the right defensive scheme for the talent that you've got. Maybe being able to tweak those things. Good teams are able to tweak those things if they see things are not working. And when you really look at a lot of these players that they've got on this roster, and they've got some great talent. I mean, make no mistake about that. But I don't think, personally, being an athlete, gone through certain things, that you can look. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to realize that some of these guys are not being used right. Some of the defensive position that they've got these players in is not the right situation.
Well, this is the thing that I have too, Donna. This really irked me to no end. You trade Chase and Montez, and I don't want to hear anything about the 9 sacks yesterday. That was an epiphany. I mean, that doesn't happen every week, especially for a team that had,
because they were on a drought for a long time.
They were, but this is the issue that I have, and this goes back to play calling. You did not blitz at all with Montez Sweat and Chase Young here. And now, since they've been gone, I've seen nothing but blitz packages, and it's working. So are you telling me that you put so much onus on Montez and Chase to get the job done that you couldn't figure anything else out? That was a disservice to those two guys.
Exactly.
And you get rid of them. And yeah, you get draft capital back and stuff, but the draft is no guaranteed fix. So for all these fans that keep saying where you're getting the second rounder and a third rounder and you can replace, it doesn't work like that.
Right, because you know how many times first round draft picks have been a bust, and you said something earlier about
seen it here.
Forbes and all of those guys. Sometimes even being drafted number 1, that doesn't mean you should be on the field, but that doesn't mean that you're always on the field, because you may need some more experienced training and all that, because you're just not grasping the system. So it means that you may have to take a little longer in your development. So that's what you're seeing. But when you got proven people that you already know what you got and you give them away, and I understand about the draft picks and everybody looking for the future, but you don't know what you're going to get with that future. And I know that you need a lot of offensive linemen, but still, to give away, and I still can't, to give away both of them. I mean, to me, you should have kept one. And Sweat is one that you definitely shouldn't let get away.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this. I keep telling people this all day. When they keep saying, you're so hard on Ron, you want him out of here. First of all, let me make sure everybody understands. I don't ever condone and recommend taking someone's livelihood from them.
Nope.
Because, Donna, it's hard for us in this business to get where we're trying to go. So with that said, though, we still have a job to do. And the bottom line is Ron Rivera needs to have a standing ovation for bringing professionalism and class to the organization. He's done a wonderful job with that. Yeah. But from an X's and O's standpoint, he's never really been a good coach. That's the thing that if you look at the records, it speaks for itself. So he's done his part, but now they need somebody that's going to take this product on the field to another level. And you have to identify, is that person here already with the enemy, or are you just going to go out of pocket? And I'm going to say this.
And please just don't get no big name. Belichick is being thrown around.
No,
please just don't get a big name, because we had that before and it didn't work out.
I want a young gun. And this is the thing. I also need to make sure that whoever's drafting, that you have the draft capital, they better get it right. Because under Ron Rivera, his 4 first-round draft picks are Chase Young, Jamin Davis, Jahan Dotson, and Emmanuel Forbes Jr. Listen, the verdict is still out on Emmanuel. He's a rookie. Jahan, I think he's a talent. And I think out of the 4, he's going to end up being the best one in Washington because, number one, the first one is gone.
All gone.
So you can't have those 4 picks and really only having who's contributing like at a first-round clip. It's probably Jahan, but even Jahan's getting lost in this offense right now because of, there's so much going on. You got a rookie quarterback.
It's so much confusion because he's trying to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
It's him understanding each game, of learning something different that he hasn't seen. So you can see
with players he inherited. He did not.
Yeah.
Guys, he knows why.
Everybody is suffering behind the learning, the quarterback, rookie quarterback. Everybody is suffering behind that. You see that in the receiving with Terry, with Curtis Samuels, with Dotson. Dotson can be missing one game and back the next week. Terry would be missing at the first part of a game, and then they got him involved. So you're seeing all of those growing pains because of what you got in your quarterback right now in moving forward. But like the players, I think, best said it after that Giants loss is they're their own worst enemy. We're going to go and listen to what they had to say, but I think they summed it up where Jahan said that it's us. Brian Robinson said it's us. We can't keep hurting ourselves, so they're pointing the fingers at themselves. But we haven't even talked about the Cowboys.
Say, Donna. I mean, seriously, you can't call your coach out publicly. You can't. But
what they said, John Allen said, is all of them. He pointed the coaches out, everybody. So if you're going to be truthful and in moving forward and whatever, you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror and say, it's me. And as Andrew Wiley said that, he said, if we can't just have 10 guys, we got to have all the 11 guys doing the same thing right most of the time. And that's something that has not happened because the offense would be on one week, defense the next. Well, the defense has been kind of like off a lot of the season. And then the special teams. And then Joey Sly, like you said, nobody is talking about him that's been missing extra points quite a bit this season. So you got to look at that. And then they got the Cowboys. Tony talked about this team may be winning 10. I said, Tony, be for real. This team is not going to win 10 games this season. When you look at a schedule, Dallas twice, the 49ers, Miami, the Jets.
Yeah, I thought they were going to win 10. And I remember you told me they're not winning 10. And I'm like, Ani, they're going to win 10. And
I'm not trying to throw the dark cloud, but I looked at what I saw in training camp. I looked at having a rookie quarterback. I looked at all the pieces, the offensive line that was, one that they did not really address. I looked at all those scopes and said 10 wins ain't going to happen. I said that at the beginning of the season.
You did. I gotta give you credit for that. But to me, when you look at the overall season and their body of work, I think they've only had one half of football, not a game, just one half of football where it was all together at the same time. And that was the second half of the Broncos game where defense shut down Denver. Offensively, they were going up and down the field. Special teams was clicking. It just doesn't seem like they've ever been able to put all their three facets together in one game. Yesterday, when you get 9 sacks in a football game, you're pretty much supposed to win the game. But you turn it back over 6 times, you're not going to win. As simple as that. Those things just don't happen. I've never in my life. I saw a stat today, next gen stat. It said that in the NFL, in history of the NFL, a team that's gotten 6 more sacks in a game have been 43-1. 9 sacks or more, 43-0.
You would think that the meter was going to go this way in the right direction. But, Lake, I want to ask you the hard question.
Yeah.
Because looking at this season as we wrap it up with what, 6 games to go, and they've got the Cowboys on Thursday, short week to get rid of a team that's playing well. Do you make, Buffalo got rid of their offensive coordinator, because they're trying to finish strong, but hopefully make the playoffs. The Raiders said, hey, after they had that all players meeting with the coaches, hey, the next week everybody was gone. So giving Antonio Pierce a chance to audition for that head coaching job, where do you look at this Commanders team in their decision as far as if things don't shape up right in Dallas this coming Thursday? With the coaching staff and looking ahead, are they going to keep the coaching staff? Should they? Or, to give Bieniemy hopefully a chance? You would have to get rid of Coach Rivera if you're looking at that, and maybe a Jack Del Rio. Or do you let them finish the season and think about this after the season is over? And also the last question too with that one is, how do you see this team finishing, knowing that they've got this schedule? I see them only possibly winning 2, maybe 1 game.
Well, Donna, when it goes back to the coaching staff, again, I don't like seeing guys let go, but I think at this time right now, I think it's time. I think after the Dallas game, it could very much happen. I think the only reason it may not have happened yesterday was because there's a short week and you can't just throw anyone in there as an interim coach, regardless if it's Eric Bieniemy or whoever it is. And expect them to, work wonders with basically 1 day of practice this week. The other day's travel. So I think the Dallas game is going to be the most important game of the season for Washington, not because it's their next game, but because it'll show, are they playing for their coaching staff, current staff, or have they laid down? And you and I both know they're probably going to go into Dallas and play them tough because this team does things they have no business doing. And that's the unfortunate part of it. If you ask me what would I do if I were the GM, after the Dallas game, I would name Eric Bieniemy the interim head coach. And the reason why I say that, it's not to disrespect Ron Rivera. Like I said, he's done a great job with bringing a modern professional setup in Washington. But this is about wins and losses. And as a head coach, that's how you're judged. Not when Ron Rivera said, I want to be judged on the culture that I have and a quarterback, because you gaffed at bringing your quarterbacks in. You gaffed with every quarterback you had, and you kind of got lucky here with Sam and Eric's coaching them up. That's what that is. The other thing is that when you talk about culture, what is the culture? I mean, you may have a nicer locker room because these guys in this locker room are just really good.
Locker room don't win games.
Exactly. They're the nicest guys in the world.
Decor.
Yeah, they're the nicest guys in the world to talk to us. They're accessible. They're really good guys. A lot of them are young family guys. That's not translating on the football field. So with me, and I've said this before, I'd rather win games with 53, jerks. Okay, that's not the word I was thinking, but I'm saying I'd rather win with 53 jerks than to lose with 53 super nice human beings. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to be out of jobs if we lose.
Hey, you can win with nice guys, Lake. I'm messing with you. But
let me say this, because you covered them. All those Super Bowl teams that were back in Washington, and you think about,
you had a mixture of everybody.
Yeah. But they had some guys that would they would get up on you now. They would press you a little bit.
That's what I said. You had a little mixture of the nice, the not so nice, and the naughty.
And this team has no mixture. It's just nice guys. And I feel bad for them because they are so nice. You want to see them do well. Ron Rivera's a nice guy, man. You want to see him do well. But this is a business about what have you done for me lately. And since they won the division that first year, which was only a 7-9, let's call it like it is. The division was handed to them because it was so bad. And you remember, Donna, you and I had that conversation when they won the division, when Ron said, well, we can steal this thing, and they did. We thought that probably wasn't the best thing to do, because now going forward, you're going to inherit these first place schedules and you're not ready for that. And that's what we're seeing now. So listen, if they go to Dallas and they get, as they call it now, boat raced, blown out or whatever you want to call it, I do expect to see some changes made the next day. And then you're giving, Bieniemy, because I think everyone knows that's probably where it'll go. He'll have an additional 4 days to prepare. So it's almost like he's getting a semi-bye week, and then he will get a bye week in another week after. So
what about Jack Del Rio?
Oh, no. If you get rid of Ron, you got to get rid of Jack. They have to, because this is the thing. Ron should have gotten rid of Jack a long time ago, but he's loyal. True. I respect loyalty. I really do.
Loyalty sometimes will get you fired.
Well, I was going to say, love you. You're my aunt. But if you're getting in trouble, I can't get in trouble with you. Exactly. I might have to say we got to change something so we don't both get in trouble. But that's the thing. I don't feel like I've seen any changes on defense. Well, I mean, I've seen the blitzing, but I just, from a schematic thing, they're still out of position. They're still, there was a 2-route concept for the Giants.
Giving up big plays.
And 2-route concept means you only have a tight end and a receiver on the same side of the ball going out. No one else went out for a pass, and yet the tight end was 30 yards wide open. You can't have that. To me, that's too much information overload in these guys' head. They're not
that was a beautiful play, because they drew everybody over to one side, and the tight end went to the opposite side wide open, and Fuller came over afterwards. But that was just drawn up beautiful, something that we don't see much of.
Nothing to counter that.
But in wrapping up, the key thing that when you look at the NFL is, and in defense of Ron Rivera a little bit, is that if you don't have a quarterback, and they've gotten it so wrong for a long time in here, I don't think past the Super Bowl years that they really got it right. But in Ron Rivera's tenure here, if you don't, and across the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to be successful. He doesn't have to be a Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have, to be of that caliber of talent. But you got to have somebody in here that's able to guide this team and not make the mistakes. I mean, you can have a half of a Patrick Mahomes and you'll be good. But this team, during Ron Rivera's, time here, the 4 years, hasn't had a really quarterback, because you talking about retreads and coaches. They did that with the quarterbacks, because every quarterback they bought in here, what did I say, Lake?
You did. That ain't it. But see, that's the thing, Donna. That's where, if you feel sorry for Ron, you have to just pour that out now, because he's the guy that named Dwayne Haskins the starter without ever really having Dwayne work for that. Don't tell me the offseason the kid was working hard and doing the right things. No, when you sit on the field, he wasn't ready for that job. Then you go out and you get Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, that's not taking you to no championship.
I was like, what?
Yeah, he's a career backup, and you brought him in to start. Like
Alex Smith, that was just Kansas City got rid of him, and that was just, hey, we're gonna bring him in because he can, direct the offense. But
and then you trade draft capital.
Building for your future. You weren't building for your future.
Well, and then you trade draft capital for Carson Wentz, 3rd round pick. I mean, you can't do that.
Let me just say that to me was the nail in the coffin, because for real, you brought him in when his name came up, and I told you, are you kidding me? Stick a fork in me, because no way, nobody else was touching him. Carson Wentz, you're building for your future, and you get a Carson Wentz that didn't even last. He got hurt.
And Donna, you could have got him. The Colts were trying to get rid of him. He probably would have been released.
You couldn't even given him to me free. You couldn't even given him to me free.
You could have called Irsay and said, look, I'm going to give you a Sprite and a Slim Jim. Just give them to me. But you gave him a 3rd round pick. When you're not a good football team, you can't give up your draft picks. You can't. And you can't tell me
you can't keep making those mistakes.
Yeah, the people that didn't have any championship pedigree. Now, I can understand if you're like, look at what Detroit did. They traded Matt Stafford. They traded for Jared Goff. Goff had taken a team to a Super Bowl. He just needed to change the scenery. If you're giving me a younger player that has had some success, he got to the Super Bowl or he did something, and that's who you want to have in the building to groom, you're going to still draft another young quarterback, I'm okay with that. But it just seems like they've missed on the rebuild. And what makes them look even worse, Donna, is what you see what's happening in Houston right now with DeMeco Ryans and
he's really
CJ. You see what they're doing. He's got a rookie quarterback. They're winning. They won yesterday. I think they're 6-4. They won one game last year. So he's already way ahead of the curve. They're going to make the playoffs this year.
Everybody thought that when Deshaun Watson left, that this team was going to be done with it. But please, they probably needed to let him go.
Yeah.
And I think their success comes in their coaching and as far as player personnel, all the things. But like we're gonna hop off of this. Gotta have you back again. It's some good stuff. We just wanted to drop some nuggets. We want this team to be successful as every fan, but this fan base deserves something. I can only look. I said Magic Johnson ain't coming in, to that game against the Giants. He said, I probably had enough. As my mom said, if you don't have something good to say, don't say nothing. But Lake Lewis, after practice podcasts and also NFL Insider, always good, Lake, to have you on the show to drop some of your valuable nuggets to the guests. So thank you again. And we'll definitely be talking again after that, probably, I don't know, the Dallas game and seeing how that's going to all pan out.
Yeah, hopefully when we talk, we can be talking about, as Magic would say, this thing going to Showtime as opposed to being an early matinee right now.
I like that.